What's going on, people? Welcome to Full Chest. Hope you're having a good day. Top of the day to you. As always, thanks for clicking. If you haven't done so already, kindly subscribe to the channel. So, unless you're living under a rock, you know that the superstar African president is Ibrahim Traore. While I'm excited about everything he's doing, and I love his the tenacity and how he's handling issues in Burkina Faso, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm also scared, right? He's very popular amongst people, English, African Americans, the French, even though Emmanuel Macron is not really a fan, but the French are a fan, which is a contradiction, but at the same time, it's welcomed. Russia is a fan as well. I think he was recently in Russia with other neighboring countries, and he recently attended the commemoration in Russia last week that marked the 80th anniversary of the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. And then he posted how he went with, both leaders from neighboring countries of Mali and Niger, and how they were inspired in winning the war against terrorism, imperialism at all costs, which is great. They're being inspired by Russia's victory of Nazi Germany. So I applaud the encouragement and what they're getting, but at the same time, I'm weary of certain things. And the reason why I'm weary of certain things is that, yes, he's popular. He's a young guy at 37 years of age. I can't help but begin to compare or remember the leader of Ghana, Mr. Rawlings, who took power in Ghana at the age of 32. Now, Rawlings did a great job. He was seen as the young Jesus in Ghana. That's what they called him during that time. And he was in office for about, about 19 years, I think. And even though during his time in office, he was able to maintain democracy, however, he didn't do a good job in quelling corruption. So even when he left office, his legacy was a mix, because there was still corruption in Ghana during that time. Now, legacy is the key word here. And that is one of the points where most African leaders miss. Legacy. Right? So, when it comes to nation building, and again, I'm going to go over some of the things, marvelous things Ibrahim Traore has accomplished so far. But to maintain his accomplishments, to build a legacy, you cannot focus on, cracking down on people who are dissenting, and also personalizing most of the things or your wins or things that have to do with a country. Because let's be honest with ourselves, right? Ibrahim Traore might be in office for a long time, but he's not going to be in office forever. And for a country to thrive, Burkina Faso is going to be there even when Ibrahim Traore is gone. So I think that the focus of Ibrahim Traore, more than anything, and he is doing it, is nation building. Okay, the nationalization of various things in the country is good, but building the mind of the people who are going to maintain these things. Now, what do I mean by this? There needs to be a focus on institution building, infrastructure building, judicial building, and also the psyche of the people of Burkina Faso, so that eradication of corruption, it can never be totally eradicated, but having a majority of people who view nation building just like he does, and training them and bringing about institutions that are going to uphold these things should be a major priority for Ibrahim Traore, as well as other things that he's doing. I think that is the only way that not only Burkina Faso, even other African countries that are being inspired by what he's doing, that is the only way a lasting legacy can be built. And that is where a good government, because to me, I think African countries are really like neo-colonialism has done a toll on the continent. And I think these countries are starting from the beginning, basically. And with the whole of getting away the Western hold and eradicating the old contracts and, the old agreements, through the rebellious acts, if you want to call it that is happening, it's the only way. And the blueprint of Ibrahim Traore might be one of the ways. And the thing that is different with him is that, people talk about he's a young president and what he's doing is the time for it. And which I agree, because back in the days, people like Rawlings, they didn't have social media. They didn't have the backing of various things. Like, there are various AI-generated things that are helping Ibrahim Traore to be more popular. They didn't have those things back then. So all these things are part of the things that are really, really helping him with everything that is going on, which I think is great. So, so everything that is happening is good. But like I mentioned before, there needs to be a focus on institutional building and, most importantly, the psyche of the people of Burkina Faso to keep what he's doing. Let it not be a short-term goal, but a long-term goal. But before I proceed on, right, we all know that, Ibrahim Traore, seized power in 2022, and since then he's been in office. And some of the things that he's done, which I think are great and which needs to be upheld, and which institutions need to be built to be able to uphold those things in the long run. For example, he set up a state-owned mining company and required foreign firms to give it a 15% stake in their local operations and to transfer skills to Burkina Bay people. Now, if you listen to my posts and some of my other videos, this is one of the things I focus on when it comes to African countries. This is part of concessions and reciprocity. And this is why Ibrahim Traore is very intelligent. Look at this. He's requiring that foreign firms, have to give a 15% stake in their local operations to Burkina Bay people and also transfer skills to Burkina Bay people. This is part of the new contract. The old people didn't have this in their contracts, right? I'm excited about this. And this is the status quo that needs to be going on in Africa. Yes, companies should come in, foreign firms should come in, but when they come in, there has to be something in these contracts that require them to pour into the locals, pour into the country, and not just take, and not just sign a check to one or two people, and that's it. So this is very important thing that he's doing. Another thing is that he required, or he also kind of applied to Russian miner, the Nord Gold company, which is a Russian company, which he gave a license. He gave them a license in late April, right, for its latest investment in Burkina Faso gold industry. So Ibrahim Traore termed this. He said this is like the revolution to ensure Burkina Faso benefits from its mineral wealth. Therefore, he's also building a gold refinery with this Russian company called Nord Gold, basically establishing national gold reserves for the first time in Burkina Faso's history. Also, Western, owned firms are facing tough times in Burkina Faso now. For example, the Australian company called Sarama Resources launched an arbitration proceeding against Burkina Faso in late 2024 following the withdrawal of their exploration license. I mean, if you're not meeting the deal that the man wants, he has every right to remove your exploration license. And I believe the reason why they're going for arbitration is because they had a deal with the old people or the old president or whoever that did not put into place a method of reciprocity and good concessions so that the Burkinabe people will benefit from their exploration. So yes, I support it. Leave. If whatever exploration is happening in Burkina Faso is not to benefit the people, and this is not only Burkina Faso, but other African leaders need to copy from this. If exploration, mining, whatsoever doesn't also pour into your people, then it is not an advantage. It's a disadvantage in the long run. So here, of course, we know that Ibrahim Traore has nationalized 2 gold mines that was previously owned by London-listed firm. And last month that he planned to take control of more foreign-owned mines. So there's been this like various foreign-owned mines in Burkina Faso that he is finally saying, listen, man, this is enough. You guys have taken advantage of our resources long enough. Now we need some of it back. Kudos. All right. So he's doing a lot of good things as well, and even the IMF and World Bank have great stats of, where Burkina Faso stands, which I will also get to later on. But like I mentioned earlier on, the French, President Emmanuel Macron is not happy with what's going on. He's blaming China and Russia, stating that because they want a stake in Burkina Faso, they're like bringing up old rumors of neo-colonial things going on, imperialistic things going on, and things like that. They're not bringing these things up, Emmanuel Macron. They are happening. They are happening, and yeah. So they're not rumors. They're actually things that are not just in Burkina Faso, but in other French colonies. So I don't think there are rumors. I think that there are things happening, and Ibrahim Traore and Burkina Faso, the people of Burkinabe people are finally paying attention as well, which is very relevant to his rule and what he's doing to make sure that Burkina Faso and the Burkinabe people are reaping the benefits of their mineral resources. So one thing that the media is mentioning about Ibrahim Traore that he hasn't been able to do is to pipe down or have a control over one of his pledges, which is to calm down the 10-year Islamist insurgency that has fueled ethnic divisions and has spread across various neighboring countries, such as Benin Republic, within the country. Even though he's cracking down on some of the jihadist operations happening, but one thing they blame him of doing is kind of putting people who are accused of fueling this Islamist insurgencies in the war front of the jihadist war and the war against the jihadists. So people are kind of still looking at him as to how he's going to handle bringing about or eradicating or trying to eradicate the division being caused by the Islamist insurgency within Burkina Faso, which is spreading across other countries. Hopefully he will be able to do that, but that's one area that he needs to also focus on to ensure stability of Burkina Faso in the long run. But one interesting thing, right, that I find very appealing and that I really like with everything that is happening is that in April, the IMF released some numbers, and it was indicated that even though there has been challenges in terms of humanitarian and security and environmental and economy and other things, right, which are pertinent, but in the African context, environment and all those things are not really pertinent. It's not really a thing in the forefront. However, the IMF has mentioned that the economy of Burkina Faso will remain robust in 2025, that the regime has made commendable progress in raising domestic revenue. They've raised domestic revenue. Now, African countries, pay attention. Pay attention, right? This man has raised domestic revenue, containing the public wage bill and increasing spending on education, health, and social protection. These are vital gains and vital things that this man has done, which kudos to him for doing that. Another thing is that the World Bank has also reported that even though there has been, inflation has surged, from 0.7% in 2023 to about 4.2% in 2024. But the extreme poverty rate, which basically refers to the people living on less than $2.50 a day, had fallen to almost 2 percentage points to 24.9% because of the robust growth in the agriculture and services sector. So this, Ibrahim Traore is single-handedly taking care of internal poverty. Burkina Faso is seen as one of the, most of these Sahel states, are seen as one of the poorest on the continent. Not only on the continent, but in the world. But with what Ibrahim Traore is doing, which is a focus on agriculture and the services industry internally in Burkina Faso, he's been able to begin to eradicate the extreme poverty rate within the country. These are all positive gains. And these are all things being done not under democracy. And I'm going to talk about this in a later post of the case of democracy in Africa and where it has gotten Africa, since people seem to see democracy as the way to go. But man, Ibrahim Traore has been doing a good job so far. And like I mentioned in the beginning of this post, yes, he's doing things that are helpful for the economy and for the government and for the people of Burkina Faso, but he needs to begin to look at the long term, which is building solid, stable institutions, judicial systems, infrastructure, and working on the psyche of the people so that corruption doesn't, permeate into what he's building. And whenever he's gone, his legacy or whatever he has built has a solid foundation to grow Burkina Faso to be, a great country on the continent. So let me know what you guys think about some of these things that is going on and some of the things I've talked about. I really appreciate your comments, suggestions, likes, engagement, much appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, kindly subscribe to the channel. Until next time, this is Food Chest. Peace and love.